Diam. Assalamualaikum and good evening to Dr. Aida and my friends. I am Nur Adlina. Together with my group member, we like to present about classification of water pollutant. Water pollutant can be classified into 7 different types, and I will be explaining about the organic pollutant. Next, organic pollutant can be subdivided into 3 categories, which are oxygen-demanding waste, synthetic organic compound, and oil. Next, the first category is oxygen-demanding waste. What is oxygen-demanding waste? It is a waste that can be decomposed by bacterial activity. The source of this waste are from the domestic and municipal sewage, wastewater from canning industry, food processing industry, slaughterhouse, tanneries, and etc. How can oxygen-demanding waste affect our water quality? This happens when dissolved oxygen available in the water body will be consumed for aerobic oxidation of organic matter and thus deplete the oxygen level in water. This causes other organisms in water like fish to die and thus disrupt the food chain. One example of cases that related to the oxygen-demanding waste are dead zones created in the Gulf of Mexico. Dead zone or hyphoxic zone is the bodies of water that fail to support marine life living there due to the lack of oxygen in the water. This happened due to the pollutant from many streams, especially Mississippi River. So, what actually happened at the Gulf of Mexico? The Mississippi River carries nitrogen-rich material like fertilizer, urban runoff, and sewage into the Gulf. Population of microscopic organisms that feed on the nitrogen booms. So, when those organisms die and sink to the bottom, their decomposition depletes the oxygen in the water. Fish and other mobile sea creatures usually move up to another place in order to avoid the dead zone. So those species that can't move fast enough will die and lead to the name of dead zone. Next. Second is synthetic organic compound. It is a man-made contaminant that present in groundwater through the production of this compound, spillage during transportation, and their uses in various applications. For example, are synthetic pesticide, synthetic detergent, food additive, pharmaceutical, paints, and etc. These compounds are toxic and biorefractory organic. Presentation of some of these in traces may change water properties, thereby making it contaminated and unsuitable for use. It's like compound like detergent and substances that can cause explosion in sewers. Pesticides are chemicals that are used in agriculture sector by spraying on the crop plants to control or eliminate pests such as insects, disease, and weeds that can be harmful to crops. However, pesticides are able to flow below the surface of the ground, reaching water-bearing aquifer, thereby contaminating the groundwater, making it unsuitable for both human and agriculture use. Next. Lastly is oil. Oil is a natural product which results from the plant remain fossil over millions of years under marine conditions. It is a complex mixture of hydrocarbon and degradable under bacterial action. Oils enter water through the oil spill, leak from oil pipes, and wastewater from production and refinery. Being lighter than water, it spread over the surface of water, separating the contact of water with air, hence resulting in reduction of dissolved oxygen. So this pollutant is also responsible for endangering water birds and coastal plants due to coating of oil and adversely affecting the normal activities. It also results in reduction of light transmission through surface water, thereby reducing the photosynthetic activity of the aquatic plant. So one of the largest marine oil spill in history are the explosion on the Deepwater Horizon oil rig located in Gulf of Mexico in 2010. A large amount of the oil that was spilled came to the surface and formed an oil slick. Release of an estimated 134 million to 206 million thousand 65. Oil is one of the most abundant pollutants in the ocean, so it is a very dangerous occurrence and affected marine ecosystem. Thus, it's important to employ various oil spill cleanup methods. So now, I would like to share 3 methods for oil spill cleanup at sea. So first is by using the oil booms. So the use of oil boom is a very simple and popular method for controlling oil spill. Equipment called containment boom acts like a fence to prevent the oil from further spreading. Boom float on the water surface and have three parts. So the first is the freeboard, where the part that rise above the water surface, containing the oil and preventing it from spilling over the top. Second is skirt. It's placed below the surface, keep the oil from being squeezed under the boom and escaping. And lastly is cable or chain. It connects the part to strengthen and to stabilize the boom. Second is using skimmer. So once the oil has been confined by using oil boom, skimmer or oil scoop can be deployed onto boats to remove the contaminant from the water surface. Skimmer are designed to suck up the oil from the water surface like a vacuum cleaner. So they are used to physically separate oil from water so that it can collect it and processed for reuse. Lastly is burning in situ. In this method, oil floating on the surface is ignited to burn it off. This in situ burning of oil can effectively remove of 98% of an oil spill, which is more than most of other methods. So the minimum concentration or the thickness of the slick on the water surface is 3 millimeter. So this is because it will be very difficult and nearly impossible to ignite a layer which is not thick enough. So the procedure works on spills that are relatively fresh before the oil spread to larger area and decreases its thickness. So I will pass to Rashdan to explain another classification of water pollutant.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening to Dr. Aida and my fellow friends. So I will continue with another classification of water pollution, which is pathogen. Next slide. Unlike most other classification on this list, um, microbiological or pathogenic microorganism pollution is a naturally occurring form of water contamination. The pathogenic microorganism enter into water body through sewage discharge as a major source or through the wastewater from industry like slaughterhouse, cattle farm, sheep farm, and others. Microorganisms such as bacteria, protozoa, and viruses can infiltrate into our water supply and can cause some disease. So here you all can see this is some disease that caused by virus and bacteria. We have cholera. Cholera is taun, and then we have typhoid, demam kepialu, and then we have dysentery, radang usus, and last we have polio and infectious hepatitis. Okay, next slide. Okay, I want to highlight one of the virus that exists in our life, which is quite dangerous. The virus is E. coli. E. coli is a type of bacteria that live in our intestine and also in the good gut of some animal. There are two types of E. coli. The first one is harmless, and the second one is bad strain that can cause diarrhea. So how do we get infected? Basically, we can become infected when we swallow even a small amount of E. coli bacteria. There are many ways that we can get infected, such as we eat meat that carry E. coli, or we eat meat that was not cooked enough. And then we eat vegetable or fruit that has been tainted by water that has bacteria. And lastly, we drink or we swimming in water that contain E. coli. So where and how does E. coli get into our water supply, especially into our drinking water? E. coli came from waste that enter the water through different way, including sewage overflow when rain heavily, sewage system they are not working properly, polluted flood water runoff, and lastly, it also came from agriculture runoff. Okay, next slide. Okay, next classification of water pollution is nutrient and agriculture runoff. As we know, nutrient and agriculture runoff is a key source of water pollution, especially for groundwater due to an excess of nutrient that can upset the delicate imbalance of water-based ecosystem. Uh, Basically, what happened is the agriculture runoff, wastewater from fertilizer industry and sewage contain substantial concentration of nutrient like nitrogen and phosphorus. So fertilizer and pesticide that applied by the farmer can seep into the ground and contaminate underwater river and waterbed, thus compromising the quality of water resource because fertilizer contain a high amount of concentration of nutrient, which is nitrogen and phosphorus. So if they contaminate river, lakes and coastal area, it can cause algal blooming that can block out sunlight and inhibit the growth of other organism. This water supply nutrient to the plant and may stimulate the growth of algae and other aquatic weed receiving water. So it is very dangerous for human to extract and use the water for their daily activity. So from this diagram, you all can see fertilizer and pesticide applied by the farmer at the farm. So when the rain fall, the water runoff seep into the ground and flow underground to the receiving water. So in this receiving water, it can we have the growth of algae and other plant. Next slide. So this is the result when the agriculture runoff seep into the ground. First, the value of water body became degraded, and then in long run, the water body reduce DO. DO is dissolved oxygen, and will lead to eutrophication and end up as that pool of water. And then if we have people swimming in eutrophic water containing blue-green algae can have skin and eye irritation. And also if the water that supply to our house contain high nitrogen, it can cause freeze to infant under 6 months. So that's all from me. I will pass to another presenter.
Okay, next we move on to the third classification of water pollution, which is suspended solid and sediment. Next. So basically, suspended solid is particles that are larger than 2 microns found in the water column. Anything smaller than 2 micron is considered a dissolved solid. This solid include anything drifting or floating in the water, from sediment, silt, and sand to plankton and algae. Organic particles from decomposing materials can also contribute to the suspended solid concentration. As algae, plants, and animals decay, the decomposition process allows small organic particles to break away and enter the water column as suspended solid. Some suspended solid can settle out into sediment at the bottom of a body of water over a period of time. Heavier particles such as gravel and sand often settle out when they enter an area of low or no water flow. Total suspended solid are a significant factor in observing water clarity. The more solid present in the water, the less clear the water will be. Next. This figure shows that most suspended solids are made up of inorganic material, though bacteria and algae can also contribute to the total solid concentration. Next. Sediment refer to the conglomerate of materials, organic and inorganic, that can be carried carried away by water. The term is often used to indicate soil-based mineral matter, for example, clay, silt, and sand. Decomposing organic substance and inorganic biogenic material are also considered sediment. Most mineral sediment comes from erosion and weathering, while organic sediment is typically detritus and decomposing materials such as algae. These particulates are typically small, with clay defined as particles less than 0.00195 millimeter in diameter, and coarse sand reaching up only to 1.5 millimeter in diameter. However, during a flood or other high flow event, even large rocks can be classified as sediment as they are carried downstream. Next, we move on to the effect of suspended solid and sediment to the water. As I mentioned earlier, suspended solid and sediment comprise of salt, sand, and mineral eroded from land. These appear in the water through the surface runoff during rainy season and through municipal sewer. This can lead to the siltation, reduced storage capacity of reservoir. Next, presence of suspended solid can block the sunlight penetration in the water, which is required for the photosynthesis by bottom vegetation. As the amount of light passing through the water is reduced, photosynthesis slows down. Reduced rate of photosynthesis causes less dissolved oxygen to be released into the water by plants. Deposition of the solid in the quiescent stretches of the stream or ocean bottom can impair the normal aquatic life and affect the diversity of the aquatic ecosystem. Then, if the deposited solids are organic in nature, they will undergo decomposition leading to development of anaerobic condition. Final suspended solids such as silt and coal dust may injure the gills of fishes and cause asphyxiation. The decrease in water clarity caused by suspended solid can affect the ability of fish to see and catch food. Next, despite the similarity in meaning, the data provided by the different measurement methods are neither interchangeable nor comparable. The suspended sediment is in milligram per liter by filtering and drying an entire water sample. Suspended solid, while also measuring in milligram per liter, are obtained by subsampling. While acceptable for homogeneized or well-mixed sample with very fine sediment, the suspended solid measurement often exclude larger suspended particles like sand. This means that the suspended sediment measurement tends to be higher and more representative of a water body as a whole, often measuring within 5% of the true particle concentration. Next, I will pass the presentation to Huzaifa. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening to my Dr. Aida and my fellow time. Uh, so I will continue discuss about the water pollution with other classification, which is inorganic and heavy metal pollutant. I combine this topic because the heavy metal is one of the substance of the inorganic. So basically, inorganic pollutant are one of the major classes of pollutant discharged by chemical in early industry. Uh, there are two inorganic pollutant occur. First is anthropogenic, and the second one is geogenic. Anthropogenic is pollutant that is originate in human activity. For example, from industry waste, heavy metal like mercury, and system to distribute of drinking water like copper. For geogenic is derived from geological source, which is the contaminated in the groundwater are those which originate from the rock material by weathering and deposit in the aquifer and enter into aqueous phase by the process of natural soil or rock interaction of water. Heavy metal and other inorganic pollutants such as trace element, mineral acid, inorganic salt, metal with organic compound as complex sulfide and cyanide having higher concentration than permissible limit can pollute water. Heavy mineral and inorganic substance can enter a water supply by industry and consumer waste, or even from acidic rain, breaking down soil and releasing the heavy metal into the stream, lakes, river, and groundwater. This inorganic may be non-biodegradable and depressing in the surrounding environment. Because of the non-biodegradability of inorganic pollutant, they may be persist longer in the ecosystem and cause further deterioration of water quality. So basically, non-biodegradable means not capable of being broken down by action of living organism. So next. Next. So I will proceed to the effect of this pollutant in the water. First one is the water become more toxic. So when the excess of the metal and the fresh water in ecosystem, it will drop the pH and it will cause the metal solubility increase and particles become more mobile. Then this make the water become more toxic. After the prolonged consumption, the presence of heavy metal and other ionic contaminants such as arsenic and fluoride cause serious illness, sometimes even cancer in human and other organisms. The accumulation of metal, heavy metal may have adverse effect on aquatic flora and fauna and may constitute a public health problem when where contaminated organisms are used for food. For example, we eat the fish and veggie that consume the contaminated water. So the other effect is algae growth due to nitrogen and phosphorus compound also can be observed. And so the last one is we can get the proper natural deposit and corrosion of plumbing system, which is when the corrosive water can dissolve high concentration of copper from pipe and the features. Copper can cause blush stain in the sink and a metallic taste to water, especially with water in contact with the metal pipe for several hours, maybe one day. So we can get two effects. First one is short term, which is we get the gastrointestinal upset, like stomach pain, and for the long term effect is we maybe have the problem with kidney and liver. So next. So next I will proceed to the source of this pollutant from. So basically the metal source are introduced in aquatic system as a result of weathering of salt and rock, maybe from coal burning power plant to generate our electricity. And the most common heavy metal pollution in freshwater comes from the mining activity or companies. They usually use the acid mine drainage system to release the heavy metal from the ore because metal are very soluble in acid solution. After the drainage process, they disperse the acid solution in the groundwater contain high level of metal. The other source is from industries such as refineries, fertilizer, and pharmaceutical. So, what solution we need to improve the water contamination that caused by and heavy metal substance? So, first one is we have high standard of wastewater treatment are needed due to stringent environmental regulation. So, to improve the water from heavy metal contamination, we can use absorbent method for removal of heavy metal from water. For example, nanomaterial are efficient absorbent method for removal of heavy metal from wastewater because they have high surface area in exchange activity site and functional group that are present on the surface. So next one is to improve the water quality from inorganic substance. We can use phytoremediation method, which is using the plant characteristic capacity to suck the contamination present in the dust. So that's all from me. I will pass to the Nordalila.
Okay. Next is thermal pollution in water. Thermal pollution is defined as a sudden increase or decrease in temperature of a natural body of water, which may be ocean, lake, river, or pond by human influence. There are seven causes of thermal pollution. The first one is water as a cooling agent in power, manufacturing, and industrial plant. Production and manufacturing plant are the biggest source of thermal pollution. This plant draw water from a nearby source to keep machines cool and then release back to the source with higher temperature. The second one is soil erosion. Soil erosion is another major factor that causes thermal pollution. Consistent soil erosion causes water body to rise, making them more exposed to sunlight. The high temperature could prove fatal for aquatic biomass as it may give rise to anaerobic condition. The third one is deforestation. Trees and plants prevent sunlight from falling directly on lakes, ponds, or river. When deforestation takes place, these water bodies are directly exposed to sunlight, thus absorbing more heat and rising its temperature. Uh, Next is for runoff water runoff from paved surface. Urban runoff discharge to surface water from paved surface like roads and parking lots can make the water warmer. During summer season, uh, the pavement give hot uh, give hot the pavement get quite hot, um, which create warm runoff that get into the sewer system and water bodies. Um, the fifth one is natural causes. Natural causes like volcanoes, geothermal vents, and hot springs under the ocean and sea can trigger warm lava to rise the temperature of water bodies. Lightning can also introduce a massive amount of heat into the ocean. Number six is retention pond. Retention ponds can be another source of thermal shock because the water bodies that are relatively small and shallow can absorb quite a bit of heat energy from the sun. When the water is pumped directly into a river, lake or bay, it causes a significant temperature increase. Without treating the waste. Share of municipal water sewage is normally higher than receiving water. The next one is increasing effects of thermal pollution. There are seven here. The first one is decrease in DO, dissolved oxygen level. The warm water reduces the level of DO in water. The warm water hold relatively less oxygen than cold water. The decrease in DO can create suffocation for plants, animals such as fish, amphibians, and other um, aquatic livings. And the next one is increase in toxin. With the constant flow of high temperature discharge from industry, there are huge increase of toxin that are being regurgitated regurgitated into the natural body of water. These toxins may contain chemicals or radiation that may have harsh impacts. The third one is loss of biodiversity. Changes in the environment may cause certain species of organism to shift their base to some other place, while there could be a significant number of species that may shift in because of warmer water effect of thermal pollution. Ecological impact. Many aquatic species are sensitive to small temperature changes, such as 1 degree Celsius, that can cause significant changes in organism metabolism and other adverse cellular biologic effects. Okay, number 5 is effect reproductive system. A significant help in the reproductive of marine wildlife can happen due to increased temperatures, as reproduction can happen within a certain range of temperature. Excessive temperature can cause the release of immature eggs or can prevent the normal development of certain eggs. Uh, Number 6 is increases metabolic rate. Their thermal pollution increases the metabolic rate of organism as increasing enzyme activity occurs that causes organisms to consume more food than what is normally required. And the last effects of thermal pollution is migration. The warm water can also cause particular species of organism to migrate to a suitable environment that would cater to its requirement of survival. And the solution to solve the thermal pollution, there are 5. The first one is cooling pond. Cooling pond is the simplest and cheapest method of controlling thermal discharges. Number 2 is controlling tower. This controlling tower designed to control the temperature of water to make the cooling process more effective. The third one is artificial lake. Artificial lake, the man-made water bodies that offer a possible alternative for the thermal pollution. Number 4 is water recycling. Industrially treated water can be recycled for domestic use or industrial heating. That the problem of thermal pollution can be mitigated. And the last one is other application. There are 3. The first one is industrial and space heating, biological applications such as soil warming, and the last one is fish culture, livestock shelters, and heating greenhouse. And the last classification of water pollutant is radioactive pollutants. Um, this pollution is defined as the physical pollution of living organisms and their environment as a result of release of radioactive substances into the environment, such as mining and processing of ore, use in research, agriculture, medical, and industrial activities, such as cobalt-60, carbon-45, um, and radioactive discharge from nuclear power plant and nuclear reactors.
such as uranium-238, uranium-235, plutonium-248, and the uses and testing the nuclear weapons. These isotopes are toxic to the life forms. They accumulate in the bones, teeth, and can cause serious disorder. And the last one is the safe concentration for lifetime consumption is 1 to the 10 power of -7 microcurries per milliliter. And the source of these radioactive pollutants, um, the proportion of radioactive pollution is 15% of the total energy of the pollution. And the next one is radioactive pollution of water, water sources, and airspace is the result of radioactive fallout from the cloud of a nuclear explosion. And the last one is radionuclides are the main source of the pollution. They emit beta particles and gamma rays, radioactive substances. That's all from me. This is our reference to finish this slide, and that's all from us. Thank you.